Solving polynomials by factoring, section 6.4. The word solving, before we get anywhere, what does it mean?
Equal signs?
It means we have an equal sign. What are we doing with that?
Finding what's missing.
Say that again.
Finding what's missing.
Finding what's missing, not necessarily.
Is that equal to 0?
Sometimes we set it equal to 0, yes.
Not
If I said to solve an equation, when you're all done, what should it say at the very end?
X
equals some number, okay? Whenever you're solving, you should have x equal something, or variable equals something. So you should have, when we're solving, we want to know x equals what, okay? There are multiple ways to do this, and factoring is one of them, and we have been doing that with quadratics. We started off factoring at the very beginning. Today we're going to do that again, but we're going to do something called factor by groupings. Some of you have seen this and some of you have not. I'm going to teach it as if you've never, ever seen this in your life. What we're going to do is you're going to group things. I'm going to group the first two and the last two. This is number 1 on your paper. The first two, what can I take out of 14a to the third and 21a to the second?
7.
And
7a squared.
7
And 4.
a squared. When I take that out, what is left? What is left for the
2a.
2a
And then 3.
minus 3. I'm going to bring that plus down. What can I take out of 16a and 24?
4.
I heard 8.
You can take
8.
it out.
I can take 8 out. That's correct. 8. What is left when I do that?
2a minus 3.
2a minus 3. Factor by grouping will always work this way. You will always have the same thing in parentheses.
Really?
If it's possible to factor by grouping, you will have the same thing in the parentheses.
You mean if we don't, we just get to write not possible as an answer?
If it says factor by grouping, you'll be able to do this.
Yeah.
She was like,
I
now.
didn't
say that.
Okay,
I was hoping.
this is 2 terms. There's a term right there and a term right there. What is in common in both of those terms?
3 minus 3.
2a minus 3. If I take a 2a minus 3 out of the first term, what's left?
7a.
7a squared. If I take a 2a to the third, 2a minus 3 out of this one, what's left? 8.
Then would that be the answer?
You
So
have
we have to
factored it.
So we have to subtract from both sides what we
Wait,
did.
that's
in
the
one.
answer?
That is the answer. We didn't subtract anything from both sides. We divided it out of both terms.
This is the most beautiful thing.
Don't we have to multiply it now? We have to
If we
multiply it?
multiplied this out, we would eventually get that.
Okay. And you
Okay?
don't want us to
We
do
know
that.
we're undoing the multiplying process by factoring.
You just want us to find the equation.
I want you to find the 2 things that multiply together to give us
It's
that.
too easy.
Okay?
I'm worried that that's too easy.
Let's do number 2. Remember, I'm going to factor by grouping, so I'm going to group the first 2 and the last 2. What do I take out of 24v to the third and 21v to the second?
3v to the second.
3v to the second. What do I have left when I take that out?
8v minus 7.
I heard 8v minus 7. Please verify that.
I agree.
Facts.
And you took 3 out of both of them.
The next one,
We have to take a negative.
be
5
careful.
out.
There's a negative right there, so be very cautious. I'm bringing the negative down, but that actually means I'm taking a negative out. Okay?
So then you don't have to worry about it.
No,
So-
because then that'll make the 35 a negative 35.
Yes. Well, yes. And I'll show you how. What can I take out of a 40v and a 35?
5.
I'm really taking out a negative 5, meaning I'm dividing a negative 5 on those.
And that's
I
why
see
the
why.
minus is
Yeah,
there.
that
The minus.
So that's why the minus is there. That's correct. When I take a negative 5 out of the negative 40v, I'll have an 8v. And when I take a negative 5 or divide a negative 5 from the 35, I'll have a negative 7.
Shit.
Do I have the same thing in both of those terms?
Yes, ma'am.
Pretty
Yes.
much, except for the. Oh, no, you have a v.
So I'll have the 8v minus
Does it matter which way
7.
it doesn't matter which way you write them, correct?
I don't know what you mean. Like put the 8v minus 7 in the second.
He was in the.
Yeah, it could be turned. Yes, this 8v minus 7 could be in the back. Yes.
I love
I was
that.
like, I couldn't think of the end, so I said caboose.
Look at Moose. That works. I love that.
I like it.
That's
So
a
what
train.
goes in here? What goes in here?
3v squared minus.
Yes, whatever's left over there. 3v squared minus 5.
Okay, this isn't too bad.
Technique.
Not too bad.
This is nice.
We have a formula at the top of the page, and we're writing it down so I can
I'll have
explain
enough
it to you.
room.
Up here at the top. All right, let's dissect this. This says that if you have something cubed, let's just do the plus for right now, plus something else cubed, I can factor it like this. I have the first one, and so since I use the plus, I use the top one here. I will use the top one on every other one, okay? So, if I have something cubed plus something cubed, I'll have a plus there. The minus is on the top, that one, and that one's always plus there.
Lovely.
If I have something cubed minus something cubed, it's on the bottom, so I'll use all the things that are on the bottom. Let's use it so you can see how it works, okay? Number 5. Number 5, I have something cubed here, and I have something cubed there. What is cubed to equal 1?
1.
1 times 1 times 1 is 1.
Don't use A because A is.
I'm using A because A is right there.
But there's an A. In
I
the
understand, I apologize. We're using A because there's an A in this equation up here. Okay? Our A value for our formula is up there. What's our B value?
64?
What is being cubed to equal 64?
8.
8
No.
times 8 times 8 is
4.
not 64.
No.
4 times 4
4.
times 4 is
8
64.
squared is 64.
And it's A because I have 4A to the third power is 64A to the third. Are you with me so far?
I don't have it written down, but I understand.
Okay, I'll let you write it down.
So we're making it into a factor.
We're gonna plug A in for everything up there, and 4A cubed for anything that's B up there. All right, here we go. So this is going to become a small parentheses and a big parentheses. We have a small, a binomial, and a trinomial.
And we just plug in the A's into the B's.
We just plug the A's and the B's.
This is just we're just doing the plus. Because
We're just doing the plus. So what will my symbol be in this first one?
plus.
Plus. And then what will my symbols be here?
Plus minus plus. Plus.
We're using the plus, which is on the top.
Minus
So we'll do top and minus. So we use the top of all of the symbols. So we'll have a minus and a plus. You with me so far?
Maybe.
See how the minus is on the top of that symbol?
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
No, I get that part.
Okay.
Which is why I never put batteries in correctly.
Yeah, make sure you put your. Okay, so what is A? Because A goes in here. 1. And B goes in there, so it's 1 plus 4A.
Oh, we should roll, right?
1 plus 4A times
Yes, all that times A squared.
1.
2.
One.
I mean 1, yeah.
AB, that's the 1 times the 4A.
So
Minus
4A.
4A.
This was a good one to start with.
Yes,
Plus
and B
16.
squared.
16A squared.
Done.
Wait.
No, it's just 16A.
That's it?
Just 16A.
That's it. What do you mean?
No.
It's 16A squared.
Yeah, because we're squaring all of B, and B is 4A, so we're squaring the 4 and the A.
Okay, the 6A.
Number 6. Number 6, what is the A value for number 6? What cubed is 16? What times what times what?
2 times 2 times
2 times 2 times 2
2. Yeah, right?
is 8.
Oh, times 2.
3
So,
is
3 times 3 times 3 is 27.
so it doesn't work, does it?
nothing goes.
All right. Can I take something out of 16 and
4.
54?
4.
Can I divide both of them by 4?
4 cubed is 12.
Can I?
I don't think so. 54, I don't think that's possible.
What can I divide 16?
2.
Wait, no, that's
2. You can take 2 out of
I can take a 2 out of both of them. Okay, so let's take a 2 out of both of them. And what will I get then?
Yeah, that's.
You get
that's
8
it.
8 plus
He said 4 squared.
27.
27x cubed. Okay. So what's my A value for this?
8.
The A value, what times what gives me 8?
2 times 2 times
2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. What times what gives me 27A cubed?
Oh my god.
Lordy.
How is that
That's a
possible?
prime number.
3.
Yeah.
3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27.
3.
What do you do?
X.
Hold on. I'm a little confused. Okay.
Yes.
So you have the 2 before the 8 and the 27x.
Mm-hmm.
So to get that, wouldn't you have to multiply everything by 2 below that? So A would equal 4 and B would equal...
We're
I'm
only
confused on how you got that whole equation.
okay, this part here.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back and then I'll be able to answer your question. When we're done, Isaac, we're going to have a 2 in the very front because we're taking everything out.
Oh,
Okay?
no.
Okay, the way we got this is we were saying, hey, what multiplies times itself 3 times to be 16? And we couldn't figure out something. There isn't anything. So maybe we needed to divide something out. So we said, what divides 16 and 54? Somebody said 4, and then we looked and said 4 doesn't go into 54, so it has to be something smaller. 2 went to both of them. So I said 2 will go here. So I divided this by 2 and
you
got
divided
8,
2
and divided 54 by 2 and got
Okay.
27.
Got it.
Okay? All right. So our A value for our formula that you wrote down is A is 2 and B is 3x. We're going to have to stick a 2 in the very front. We're going to have our 2. We're going to have our binomial and our trinomial. I have to scoot over because I'm moving room. All right.
Brain is spinning.
Where
Yeah.
do what's my symbols going to be in here?
Plus.
Same as it was before, right?
Yeah,
A
plus,
plus,
minus,
a plus minus plus, right?
Can we go over that one more time before we leave today? Why it's a plus minus plus?
Because the formula
top
says
symbols are
we're
both
using the
symbols.
top symbol, we're using a plus. If we use the top one on this one, we use the top on everything.
Okay.
If we're going to use a minus, then we're using the bottom on everything.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Okay? All right.
Whew.
All
When
right.
do we use a minus?
This one we're using a plus. So we'll be using the top of all of them up there.
It's the formula.
Okay?
So that makes sense. But there was a minus here. You just use the
That's
bottom
why
of
that's
those.
why it's flipped, is because it's when it's a plus it's a minus. It's the opposite of what the original. Okay? So we're going to have plus minus plus, right? What goes
Question.
Yes, sir.
If it's a negative, does that make the last one a negative or still a positive?
Still a positive.
Alright.
Okay?
The positive. The last one doesn't change. It's
That's
always
correct. It's
Okay.
always positive.
It's the
All
only
right?
one I'm gonna remember.
Right. Oh, you remember. All right. So what goes right here?
2.
I heard 2. Yes.
2 plus 3x, close parentheses, open parentheses,
What goes
4
here?
minus 6.
So it's a 4 here. How'd you get a 4?
I multiplied the 2
Square.
by
Yes.
the square
Because it's an a squared, so it goes 4. Good.
minus 6x.
And then we multiply these two together.
Yes, and I got a 6x.
6x.
And then I squared the 3x and I got a 9x cubed. I mean, not cubed, squared.
There we go.
9x squared.
Can
Sorry.
we do that again? What
Yes.
you
Okay. So up here, you understand how this is the A and the B. We just stick them in. A, B. We stick the A and the B.
Okay.
Right? This now says we do A squared.
Okay.
So A is 2. So we square it for here. Okay?
Makes sense.
This says we take A, B. That's A times B. That's these two together.
Okay. Makes sense.
That's a 6. Then it says B squared. And B squared is 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. And X squared. So 9X squared.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh
Okay,
my
that makes sense.
gosh. Oof,
We're done.
hefty load.
We factored by the sum and difference formula. Okay?
I'll put extra.
And that sum and difference formula always only works for cubes. All right. Now, I'm going to this is just for what you to watch. All unless you need to write it down. These words mean to do the same thing. Just depends on who's asking it and which word they want to use. Those are all synonyms and math synonyms, okay? If someone asks you to find the zeros, they're asking you to find the solutions. They're also asking you to find the roots. And they're also asking you to find where it crosses the x-axis. If you would like to write those down somewhere, it's all totally optional. I'm not making you take any notes. But if they're asking you to find where it crosses the x-axis, they're also asking you to find the zeros, because that's when you set it equal to 0 to find where it crosses the x-axis. You're also finding the roots. You're also finding the solutions. All 4 of those words are synonyms, or that the phrases in this case are synonyms. They mean the same thing in the math world.
So we're setting this all. So we're setting them equal to.
So if someone asks you to find the zeros, it means you're setting it equal to 0 and solving. If someone asks you to find the roots, you're setting it equal to 0 and finding the solutions. If somebody asks you where it crosses the x-axis, you're going to set it equal to 0 and solve. We've been doing that with the quadratics all along. Now we're just expanding it to something higher.
Okay. So
Okay.
are we gonna do some examples?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So
Because
Right here, we're finding the solutions. It says solve each and find all roots. Roots means we're setting it equal to 0 when we're solving, okay? So let's do the first one, number 11. Number 11. Can I factor that in some way?
Take an X out of all.
We can take an x out of all of them, okay? So if I take an x out, I'm dividing that x out. What will I have left?
Are we literally just gonna do a negative 10 plus a 10?
X squared, X, and then 20.
So we
No,
put
we're going to just
open
take
parentheses-
x out.
Yeah, I know. So we're trying
You're
to
ahead of me,
factor
though.
it.
Is it-
Factor it.
But not yet. I'm just taking an x out right now.
Okay.
So what do I have when I take the x out?
X squared minus X minus 20.
James.
Okay. Now we're going to factor that one. Okay? That's a box method we learned last chapter.
So plus and minus. So it'd be x. So it'd be open parentheses x minus 10 close parentheses open parentheses x plus 10 close parentheses.
What multiplies to be 20? What's my options?
4 and 5.
4 and 5.
4 and
5
5.
minus 4 is 1. So.
Is it 4 and 5? Is that the only options I have?
No, but
yeah,
that's the only
but
one.
that's what we need.
10 and
That's what we
2, but that won't help us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so which one's positive, which one's negative, or both?
Negative 5.
Negative 5.
Because it's a negative 1. Would x be a negative 1?
If I did my diagonals, that's exactly right. I do this diagonal, that's going to be negative 5x. That's going to be 4x. That will give us my negative x for that center thing right here. Okay? All right. So I'm going to bring down this x. What goes inside those parentheses?
X plus 4 and then X minus 5.
Yes.
Because I screwed this up, I got the hang of it.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
All right. We are not finished. Remember, it says we are finding the roots.
So
That
now
means
I
we're
take the
finding the
opposite.
solutions.
So it would be X
So we're going to set each of
Equals-
these equal to 0.
negative 4 and positive 5.
Yeah, or we could set them all equal to 0. So we'll have 3 answers, 1, 2, and 3. We'll have
Wait,
x
wait.
equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0.
Oh.
So what am I?
So we're doing 3 separate equations?
We could, or you might be able to do it in your head. So I'm not quite sure.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that. You lost
Okay,
me.
we're doing the 0 property. We did this
All we're
with
doing is
quadratics.
writing them down separately.
We
and that's the
could.
answer.
X equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. But you might be able to do that in your head without writing it.
But is that just the answer?
I
No,
won't
the
remember
answer
it.
always when we're solving is
Oh,
x equals some number.
X equals 0, negative 4, and positive 5.
Yes.
That
We do
makes
have to
a
write the
lot
X
more
equals
sense.
0.
Pardon
We
me?
do have to write the 0.
You have to write the 0. That was for this one. 0, negative 4, and positive 5. If you can skip this step, that is totally acceptable. And just jump from here down to here. Okay?
It's gotta be messy or I'll lose my place.
So the reason we were able to go from here is because we set it equal to 0. All right? What we did is we just subtracted the 4 to the other side and got a negative 4. We added the 5 to the other side and got a 5.
Okay,
All right? Questions? Let's do another one.
that makes a lot more sense.
That's not bad.
Let's do number 15, and there's some instructions up there.
Oh, this is a different problem.
This is a different problem. We're doing number 15 now.
Alright, group it.
Yes. Factor each by grouping and find all roots. Roots are the same as solutions, and we're actually finding where they cross the x-axis at the same time, okay? All right, so by grouping, remember, grouping meant I put an underline on here and here. What can I take out of x cubed and a negative 2x squared?
X squared.
X squared.
X squared, okay. What's left?
X minus 2.
Can we add parentheses? Is that okay? To the original equation.
You could put parentheses if you wanted, yes. Be careful that this parentheses is not like this, though, because that negative made it looks like it goes with the 8 when you do it like that. So just be careful. That's why I underline instead of
I might
parentheses.
highlight, that helps.
Yeah, that would help too.
So minus. and
Minus.
then Open parentheses and be x. And because you divide the 8 by a negative 4, it'd be
So what are you
2.
taking out of that 4x plus 4? Okay. So be really careful. When I take out a negative 4,
X minus 2.
x minus 2, right? Do I have the same thing in both terms with my factor by grouping? So I'll have x minus 2,
X squared minus 4.
x squared minus 4 equals 0. Be really careful. We can still factor again.
Wait,
This factors.
How do we get to this step?
That's okay.
I was with you
I'll
the
back
last
up.
one.
No problem. This X minus 2 is in both of them, so I took it out. And what's left? The x squared is left,
Okay.
and the minus 4 is left.
I remember doing that. I just didn't.
Yes,
part
no
when we
problem.
went there.
We're not finished because this thing can be factored. What is x squared minus 4?
X equals 2, comma 2.
Just a second. X minus 2. We're factoring this.
X minus 2.
Actually,
Oh, so we
Plus
distribute? Is that what we do?
Right?
I am factoring this one. It's going to become 2 pieces. What 2 pieces is it
Why are
going
you
to be?
factoring it?
Because I'm factoring it. You don't have to factor
Oh, I
it.
see what you're saying. So it would just be x minus 2 and x minus 2. So
Not
there's
x
three
minus
of
2
them.
minus 2. X minus 2x
Plus 2.
plus 2. This
Why?
is called the difference of squares. Now, I have 3 answers. X equals this one, and this one.
How would we get to the answer without doing that step?
I'll show you in a minute. I'll show you Isaac's way in a minute. Okay. What's my 3 answers?
X equals positive 2. X equals negative 2.
Oops.
Plus or minus 2.
Plus or minus 2. But doesn't it show me I have 3 answers?
Yes.
Yeah,
Plus or
but-
minus 2, comma 2.
You want to tell me 2 also?
Well, but you don't have to.
You don't have to write the redundant answer. You'll need to know something when you have a redundant answer. I'm just going to give you a little advertisement. It's where they bounce on the x-axis, by the way. It's when it. You remember how we used to have a single one that was
Yeah.
touched the x-axis? When we have a double root like that, it bounces on the x-axis.
Oh.
All right, just for
So
your
you could
information.
Just write plus or minus? You don't have
You don't have to write that last little bit. That's correct. All right. Isaac's way, he wanted to stop right here. He just come over, I think, and did x squared minus 4 equals 0, and then
Exactly what I
move
did.
that over, and you'll have x squared equals 4. Take the square root of both sides, and then you get plus or minus 2. And then your plus minus 2 is this with that one left.
I
Okay?
like this way better.
Okay. So it won't always be like that because there's times when you might have like a 5 or something in there or something. So you might not always be able to factor it.
Got him.
So we're going to factor each with the sum and difference formula and find all the roots. That's the little formula you wrote down with the upside minus plus minus thing. All right. So we need to factor this. What's the A value? And what's the B value? 1, or not 1, almost 1. It's 1 sum. What was the letter though? X. And the B value. What times what gives us 125?
Oh, goodness.
15?
5.
5.
Is it 5? Make sure. 5 times
5
5.
times
5 to the third.
20
Is
times
it
5,
125?
125.
It's 5. Okay.
Ta-da.
All right. So remember, we're going to have a binomial and a trinomial. This time we're equaling 0. So it's a plus. So I'm going to have a plus here. But what's my symbol is going to be in the trinomial?
Plus.
Minus.
It'd be a minus and a plus.
Minus and a plus. Okay. So just like Brett said, we're always going to have a plus right there, right? Okay. So what goes in here?
X plus 5.
X plus 5. That's correct.
X squared.
X squared, which is the A squared.
5x.
5x. And
5 squared for 25.
25. You can try the box method on this one. I rarely ever find a box method that works on this. And I rarely find anything except the quadratic formula to solve this one. X equals what for this one?
Negative 5.
So you're going to have to do the quadratic formula. That's why we did the quadratic formula last time for this one. All right? That quadratic formula was, just for anybody who didn't remember, negative b plus or x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over
2A.
Wait, this is
2A.
number 19.
I'm gonna have to leave in just a second.
This is number 19.
Not bad.
All right. So we already have one of the answers right here. X equals negative 5. We have to have 2 more. Our 2 more will be found with our quadratic equation. What is A, B, and C now for this one?
A is 1. A is
1, B is
Negative 5. And
C is 25. All right, here we go. Negative b, which is 5, plus or minus square root. I like to just put what b squared is, which is plain old 25, minus 4 times a.
B is 25. That B was negative Wait, are we
Negative
doing?
times a
Oh,
negative
we're doing
is a
right there.
positive.
Never mind.
Got it?
No, yeah.
And 25.
That's why you gave us a lot of room.
All over 2.
All over 2A. Okay. Can somebody help me?
Well, that's just 2 right
What's
now.
25 minus 4 times 25?
Times 1.
Negative 75?
That's what I got in my head when I did it.
It should be 100, right?
I got, this is 100, and this will be 25 minus
Oh,
100.
Yeah.
So it'll be negative 75.
Yeah.
Oh, we have an I.
That's correct. So we'll have an I.
So we do 5 plus or minus 5?
5 plus or minus 70.
5 for 75?
Yes.
Over 2.
But to 75, can I do a factor tree on 75? Can I take some stuff out?
That would
Yeah, you
be
can.
a double 5 and 5.
A double 5 and a 3.
So you
Where?
bring out the 5 and you put a 3 on the inside.
That's
square root of
correct.
3. So
Because
you put-
isn't 75 25 times 3?
Yes.
Okay, so then, and 25 breaks into 5 and 5. So I'll have 5 and 5 and 3.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll bring out the 5 and leave the 3 in, right?
So plus or minus 5i.
So I'll have 5 plus or minus 5i
Square root 3.
square root 3
All over 2.
all over 2. Okay, so we have 3 answers here. Negative 5 and 5 plus or minus 5i square root 3 over 2. How is this 3 answers?
Whoa, where are you writing? Oh, there you are.
Because it's a plus or a minus. So.
This is a plus or minus. I told you that when we're finding all the roots, we're finding it where it crosses the x-axis. How in the world does it cross the x-axis at an I?
Okay, I gotta go.
Is that just a negative 1 on the x?
It doesn't cross
It
the
doesn't
x-axis?
cross the x-axis at those points. It's just one of those bouncy ones in the middle.
Real
It'll
quick.
be the bouncy ones in the
So
middle.
x would equal negative 5 comma 5 plus or minus 5i to the square root of 3 all over 2.
We just write
Yes.
that chunky thing?
Chunky thing.
Lovely.
We did this already, but there's one piece that I want to explain.
Home mini.
How many?
I'm sorry, thank you. How many? State how many real zeros there are, okay? You're going to get your calculator out. You're going to get 5 points like we did the last time. You know one of them automatically. Which one is that one?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. 0, negative 2 is the first one. I'm going to just graph it right now. You should be able to look at that. Is it going to rise and fall from left and right, or is it going to go down and then up, or up and then down?
And then down.
Up and then down. You'll just know that because of that's negative, correct? All right. And so you can put that into your graphing calculator, and you can. So you're probably going to guess numbers over here in this area, but you look at the graph to see negative 1, 1. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, right there.
Wait, what?
So you got.
I got a positive 3.
Make
The
sure.
Negative 1?
Did you put a negative in front? Negative x cubed
Yes.
plus. Did you guys make sure this is a subtractant, not a negative? Everybody make sure this is a subtractant, not a negative.
Yeah. Is it the
Wait.
top of the screen?
So when you put a positive one, what'd you get?
1 negative 1. It's like the opposite of the
Oh,
previous one.
okay. All right. So there's 3 points. We need
Let's try 2. Why not? 2 negative 2.
2 negative 2. That one works. 2 negative 1 again?
No, 2 is negative. 2 negative 2.
Wait, what did
Negative
you get
2.
for 1?
Sorry.
I put in 1, I got negative 1.
All right. What else did you guys try?
3 is negative 11. No.
3 is negative 1?
11.
Negative 11. Okay, we don't want that,
Yeah,
right?
no.
Okay. So what about a negative 2?
14.
Oh.
Let's try 0.
0 you already did.
Oh, haha.
Ours only goes to, so it's going to come like this and do something like that, right? Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay. Now, let's just for right now not worry about that 5th point. The part that I really want to make sure you can do is this part here. State how many real zeros. Real zero. What is it? When I said zeros mean what?
Solutions.
Solutions. What is another thing?
Times it crosses the x-axis?
Times it crosses the x-axis. How many times does that cross the x-axis?
1.
1. That means it has one
Real 0.
real zero.
So the
And you
answer's
can
just 1.
1. And
So 1 real solution?
yes,
One
one
real
real zero. All right, so this is what we learned. We learned some new factoring techniques. Then we explained how to use those factoring techniques to actually solve the polynomials. We learned some new terms about solutions. We learned that solutions were also where they cross the x-axis, zeros and roots. And that's all. Goodbye.